Hey everyone, buckle up because today we're diving headfirst into AI, global power dynamics, and get this, Africa's potential role in it all.
Yeah, it's a fascinating intersection of trends, one that often flies under the radar.
Totally. We're kicking off our deep dive today with a LinkedIn article, fresh off the digital press. It was published just today, October 20th, 2024.
Oh, wow, so it's really hot off the press then.
It is, and it's aptly titled, Africa's Role in the AI Factory. The Case for a Focused Picks and Shovels Strategy.
Catchy title. Who wrote it?
The author is Willy Seyama.
Okay, and what's his background?
He's the founder and CEO of Initiate, a marketing productivity agency.
So he's coming at this from a business angle. Interesting. What's the article about?
Well, he starts by unpacking insights from a keynote by Alexander Wang, the Scale AI founder.
Oh yeah, the youngest self-made billionaire. Hard to miss that claim to fame.
Right. Anyway, Siyama focuses on how Wang breaks down the global AI race. Wang says it's not just the U.S. leading the charge anymore, which I thought was interesting.
It's true, the AI landscape is definitely shifting. What's Wang's take on who the other big players are?
He highlights how China is rapidly gaining ground, especially in algorithms, data, and compute power, basically. The essential ingredients for AI advancement, right?
Yeah, those are the building blocks for sure.
But here's where things get really interesting. Wang emphasizes how energy is crucial in this race, something that often gets overlooked.
It's like trying to bake a cake and forgetting to turn the oven on. You need that power.
Exactly. And Wang points out that the U.S. is struggling to meet the growing energy demands of AI development, while China seems to be ahead of the curve.
That makes sense. They surpassed the U.S. in power generation a while back, right?
Over a decade ago, actually. But here's where Selama's article takes a really interesting turn. He argues that instead of going head-to-head with these AI giants in the U.S. and China, Africa should focus on becoming the primary energy source.
Interesting. So instead of trying to build the best AI, they should focus on powering the AI that others are building.
Exactly. Like supplying the tools for a gold rush instead of digging for gold yourself.
Ah, the classic picks and shovels strategy. Smart. It plays to Africa's strengths while letting them avoid that crowded field of AI development.
Exactly. It's about thinking long-term and becoming, well, almost indispensable to the whole industry.
Right, because everyone needs energy. I like it. So instead of pouring resources into creating cutting-edge AI, Africa could focus on becoming the powerhouse that literally powers AI.
Precisely. But to really get why this strategy could be such a game changer, we need to break down what kind of energy even powers AI in the first place.
Okay, yeah, that's a great place to start. Let's get into it. So when we think about powering AI, a lot of people probably think of renewables, right? Like solar energy especially, with all the hype around it these days.
Oh, absolutely. Solar seems to be everywhere you look now. And the article backs that up. It predicts a whopping 20% increase in demand for solar energy by 2030. That's massive.
It is, and there's a good reason for it. Think about those huge data centers that process all that information for AI. They eat up energy like crazy. To keep up with AI's growing needs, we need an energy source that's sustainable and reliable, and that's where solar really shines.
Makes sense. But it's not just about solar, is it? The article mentioned wind energy as another major player, with an even bigger projected increase in demand around 39% by 2030, if I remember correctly.
You got it. And that highlights something really important. Powering the AI revolution won't rely on just one energy source. It's going to take a mix of renewables and those transitional energy sources to keep up with these huge demands. It's going to take a team effort, basically.
Right, a variety of sources. And speaking of transitional, what about the more traditional sources, like natural gas? Do they still have a place in this future where AI is so central?
That's a great question, and it's something the article addresses head on. While natural gas is still a big part of the energy mix, the prediction is that things will shift towards a more balanced approach. By 2030, they're projecting about a 50-50 split between natural gas and renewables.
A more balanced mix, that makes sense. It's like we're slowly but surely transitioning away from fossil fuels toward a greener energy future. What about hydropower? That's been around forever. Does it still have a part to play in all this?
It does, yeah. Hydropower is a really solid energy source, especially in certain parts of the world. But unlike solar and wind, its potential for growth is a bit more limited. We're not going to see the same kind of massive growth in hydropower as we are in those other renewable sources.
So it's still valuable, but maybe not the star of the show anymore. Interesting. Okay, so we've got solar, wind, natural gas, hydropower. What about nuclear? I feel like that could be a good fit for powering something as demanding as AI.
It's an important point, and you're right. Nuclear has the potential to generate power on a huge scale. It's not used a whole lot for AI at the moment, but it's a critical part of the energy landscape in some regions, mostly because it's so reliable. It's like the steady, always there option.
Okay, so it's there if we need it.
Yeah.
Let me see. We got solar, wind, natural gas, hydropower, nuclear. Am I missing anything? What about all those giant batteries we keep hearing about? Those have to factor in somehow, right?
You're right. We can't forget about energy storage. You're spot on. It's a crucial piece of the puzzle. We were just talking about how solar and wind energy can be intermittent, which basically means that they're not always available. It depends on whether the sun is shining or the wind is blowing, right? Well, that's where energy storage comes in. Those huge batteries you mentioned are like giant energy tanks, storing up extra energy when the sun is shining or the wind is strong, and then releasing it when we need it later.
Wow, so it's like having a backup generator for the entire power grid. That's incredible. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here talking about all these different energy sources, but how does this all connect back to Africa? Where does Africa fit into all of this?
That's the million-dollar question, and this is where Seyama's article really gets down to brass tacks. See, right now, Africa relies heavily on fossil fuels, but, and this is a big but, the continent has this untapped potential for solar, wind, A&D hydropower. It's really quite remarkable.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying that Africa could actually become like the main source of green energy for the world?
It's definitely a possibility. When you look at the numbers, it's pretty mind-blowing. The article mentions a report that says Africa could potentially provide a staggering 60% of the world's solar energy needs just on its own.
60%. You're kidding. That's like more than half. But what does that actually look like in terms of Africa's role in the AI revolution? Are we just talking about supplying the energy, or could this open up other doors? Could Africa even become home to those massive data centers we've been discussing?
You're thinking ahead, and that's exactly the kind of forward-thinking Seyama's article is encouraging. And you're right, if Africa were to become this green energy hub, the ripple effects could be enormous. Think about it, shipping huge amounts of energy across continents is super expensive and really inefficient.
Right. It wouldn't make much sense to generate all this green energy in Africa just to ship it somewhere else to power data centers.
Exactly. But data, no, that's a different story. Data can be transmitted much more efficiently. So instead of sending all that energy across the globe, why not build those data centers right there in Africa, powered by clean local energy? It's a game changer.
It totally is. So by focusing on green energy for AI, Africa could kickstart a whole wave of new developments in technology, not just in energy, but in all sorts of related fields. It's like a domino effect of innovation, all stemming from this one strategic focus. But let's be real, there have to be challenges to overcome, right? It can't be that easy.
You're right, there are always challenges. And the article doesn't sugarcoat things. It acknowledges that Africa faces certain limitations right now, especially when it comes to going head-to-head with the big players in AI development.
It's probably not realistic for Africa to try to build the most advanced AI models from scratch at this point, right?
Probably not, no. And that's precisely why Seyama suggests taking a more focused approach. Instead of spreading resources thin, trying to do everything, Africa could become a major player in a specific area, like green energy, and then use that strength to become a vital part of the global AI landscape. It's about picking a lane and owning it.
Like finding your niche and becoming the go-to expert in that specific field, instead of trying to be a jack of all trades.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is that this strategy aligns perfectly with those broader global goals of combating climate change, reducing our dependence on fossil fuels, and moving towards a more sustainable future. These are goals that countries all over the world are striving for.
It's like a perfect storm. The world needs clean energy. Africa has the potential to provide it on a massive scale, and the AI industry is going to be a huge consumer of that energy.
It is. And Seyama's article really emphasizes how crucial it is for Africa to be strategic and specific about its role. It's not enough to just say, we want to be part of the AI world. It's about taking concrete steps to develop those green energy resources, showing the world what Africa is capable of, and making it crystal clear that Africa is ready to power the AI revolution.
It's about making a statement saying, we're not just here to participate, we're here to lead. But what happens after that? What happens if Africa actually does become this green energy hub that's powering the AI revolution? What are the implications not just for Africa, but for the whole world? How would this shift in energy dynamics change the balance of power globally? Could it lead to new partnerships or even, dare I say it, new rivalries?
Those are the big questions, aren't they? The ones that really get you thinking. And that's the beauty of these deep dives. It's not about having all the answers. It's about sparking new questions, new ways of looking at the world.
You're right, it's about exploring possibilities. This article has definitely given me a whole new perspective on Africa's potential role in the future, and honestly, it's incredibly exciting.
It's about challenging assumptions, too. We hear so much about the difficulties Africa faces, but this article sheds light on a very real and very exciting opportunity for the continent. It reminds us that the future isn't set in stone, it's being shaped right now by the decisions we're making today.
And those decisions are being made not just in Silicon Valley, but also in places like Addis Ababa and Nairobi and Lagos.
Exactly. The AI revolution isn't just about algorithms. It's going to require a massive transformation in how we produce and consume energy. And Africa could be at the forefront of that transformation, not just as a participant, but as a leader.
Imagine that Africa leading the charge in the global energy revolution. And maybe, just maybe, by doing so, it could redefine its own future along the way.
Wouldn't that be something? And that's what I'll leave you to ponder. What if, by embracing this picks and shovel strategy, Africa not only secures its place in the AI-powered world, but also helps to steer that world towards a more sustainable and equitable future for everyone? Just a thought.
A powerful thought. This has been an incredible deep dive. It's amazing how one article can spark so many new ideas and important conversations.
That's the power of ideas, and that's what we aim for here on the Deep Dive. We want to explore these ideas, challenge assumptions, and hopefully inspire our listeners to think differently about the world.
So, to our listeners, as always, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep those brilliant minds of yours engaged. We'll see you next time.